Welcome everyone to the stream. Welcome. It's good to see you here. It's good to have everyone here again. Welcome to the stream. Thank you so much for watching, whether you are watching live or on the video later on. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. Make sure to like, subscribe, all the YouTube things. Okay, now that that's done, we're painting today. We're continuing with Touch of Midas. And actually, can you show that for me, please? We got producer Rachel on the camera. So let's see what we're painting today before we get started. All right, so you can see I've made some progress. I've made some pretty good progress here. I'm going over and working into some of this, some of this nice background, the swirly bokeh, some of these things. So it's looking pretty good so far. And we're going to continue working our way over. Now, I haven't gotten a lot done this week, maybe, I don't know, 3 days of painting, 4 days of painting, something like that. So I've gotten a little bit going on, but not quite as much as I wanted. That's okay. We're going to keep going today, keep working on it today. So let's talk about our paints. Let's talk about our palette, what we're up to first. All right, now we've got, on our palette, we've got our normal colors, our dual primaries palette, which is white and black. We've got 2 yellows. There we go. We've got our 2 yellows there, our 2 reds, our 2 blues, our 2 browns, of course not being a primary, that's okay. And then our convenience colors, a purple and a green. Now I'm mixing some strings here, as you can see. I've got kind of a neutral warm string there. I've got a sort of greenish, a sort of bluish, a warm gray, and a very, very saturated high chroma sort of string. And I'm actually going to continue that first. So let's see. Oh, we've got too many cameras going on. There we go. That's what we're looking for. That's what we're looking for. Okay. So I'm going to continue with this string. Now I don't want to be mixing too much with you guys because the sound is a little much with the palette knife here. And actually here I'll show you my palette knife there. This palette knife, I love this palette knife. I got it from my grandfather, and it's a no-name palette knife. I have no idea what it is. It just has a little size number on it. But man, I love this thing. It's very, very flexible, really bendy. You can see actually if I hold it just right, you see that little bend on the top? I was devastated when I did that. I dropped it on the ground, and my favorite palette knife in the planet got damaged. I have several palette knives. You can see I tried to replace it here. If you look in that bottom corner there, but I just cannot find the right one. It's not it, and it's too hard and it's too stiff, and I don't know. It's fine. It's pretty good. It's just not the same, you know. Something tells me I'll never find one that's exactly the same. That's okay. It's a sentimental value, I think, that's getting me. Anyway, so we're going to keep mixing this little string here. We're looking for high chroma, but also very light in value, something that's a little difficult to achieve. So we're going to mix as much as possible our value first with our brighter high saturation, high chroma colors like this bright yellow here. Oh, there we go. Actually, can we get the side by side palette and face? That way my face isn't kind of covering up my yellow. There we go. I think that's going to be Mem 2, Mem 1 maybe? I'm sorry, 3? That looks like it. How about 4? 5? Really? That's the ticket. There we go, everybody. Okay, still having some technical difficulties every now and then. It is in fact only our second stream. So we're still pretty early on in this. There's still a lot of things that I'd like to change as well. One of them, I'd like to get another camera that's zoomed in pretty well towards the actual artwork. In this instance, I'm doing some pretty small artwork, and it would be really cool, especially on the second layer now. First layer, it's a little messy anyway. Can't really see it too well. It's a little bit blurry. But that second layer, the detail work starts to be really high resolution. A lot of very specific sort of brush work, and I'd love for you to be able to see it. So something to work on in the future. But in the meantime, we've got our brightest color here on this warm, pretty high chroma string. Now, I will say I don't always do color strings like this. Sometimes I do. In this instance, you'll see when we switch to the artwork, I'm doing a lot of different variations of colors. And it's very easy for me to just do a bunch of strings like this that are pretty close, and then I can adjust as we go. And you'll see me do quite a lot of that, because none of these strings, I would imagine, appear exactly as I've mixed them on my painting. I don't know, maybe I'll get lucky. But this is a pretty just general color mixtures, and then I'll adjust as I go. So I wanted to talk about something here that we didn't talk about last time, which is the actual oil paints that I'm using. So we've got titanium white, let's see here, a little bit of dirt on my Naples there, Naples yellow hue, my cadmium yellow, cadmium red light, cadmium red medium, alizarin crimson, ultramarine blue, I think that's the French ultramarine blue, I don't know if there's quite a distinction, but French ultramarine blue, phthalo blue, permanent green light, again, that's just a convenience color. Nice to have a green on your palette so you don't have to mix it yourself all the time, especially when you're doing some greens and some blue greens like I am here. We've got your burnt umber, raw umber, and lamp black. Usually I would have used ivory black, but lamp black is a good substitute that's very opaque. So that's what I'm using here. Now, before I get to your question, I see that somebody has a question here. I do want to tell you, I'm using Winsor & Newton Winton paints. Now, Winton is not typically a brand that you would find in a lot of professional artists. It's considered a student grade paint. However, I'm using it because the viscosity of all these paints and how opaque they are is very, very similar across the board. Usually in student grade paints, there's a lot of fillers in it, a lot of additives, a lot of fillers, and normally that would lower your pigment load in the paint, which means it's a little bit more difficult to mix because, for instance, our orange and our yellow here takes a lot of yellow compared to a very little bit of orange. But it also means that they're all the same viscosity because of all those fillers. So I'm using that so that I can have a little bit easier time with my paint handling, because again, they're all about the same, with the alizarin crimson being the only one that doesn't really fall into that, but that's okay. Just goes to show you, though, that you can use student grade work, quotes, student grade work, student grade paints, student grade materials, and still be a very, very effective painter. All right, so what is your question? We get a question from producer Rachel. What you got?
Nadine asks, do you have any recommended texts that would be helpful for developing shading techniques?
Shading techniques. Relevant text for shading techniques. You know, shading techniques. So I'm going to assume that you're talking about drawing. That you're talking maybe charcoal drawing and graphite drawing specifically. Man, there are a lot of books out there. You may notice behind me here, I don't know how well you can see that. Oh, there it is. There's only just a couple books that I have back here. And we have our book library here at the Academy. It doesn't have a lot in there because, oh yeah, here you go. Yeah, you can see a couple things back there, a couple books back here. I do some art history books is mostly what I like to watch and read and look at and listen to as well for audiobooks. But as far as shading techniques books goes, I think actually you'll probably have a better time watching video. I think you would probably learn more from seeing someone actually do it in front of you instead of reading about it. And furthermore, I would certainly argue that experiencing it yourself is definitely going to be the best teacher. The problem in that actually lies in the fact that you have no one telling you whether you are doing something right or wrong. So you can experience it and say, oh, wow, this is so much better. But if you have no one telling you, yes, and you've done it right, it'd be a little bit difficult. So here, let's go to the artwork here. All right. There we go. So we've got our artwork here. By the way, Nadine, I hope I've answered your question. I know that I didn't give you any book recommendations. I'm afraid I don't really have any, to be honest. Can I get the artwork face split? There we go. Okay, we're back. We're connecting one-on-one again. You and I, Nadine, we're in it together. So I'm afraid I don't really have any book recommendations for you. The most books that I have read, again, are in art history and composition, actually. I feel like that can be very useful to read books on. But past that, I think there is no there's no real substitute for experience, and there's no substitute for watching someone who is experienced and trying to learn from them. So I would encourage you to, if you can't seek out an instructor, a teacher, for an apprenticeship, that sort of thing, I would encourage you to watch some videos and try to replicate what you see. And the biggest thing there is difference in pressure. If you can get very, very good at applying the right amount of pressure at the right time, which is very difficult, takes a lot of practice. But if you can get very, very good at that, you'll be a pro in no time. Don't worry about that. So yeah, watch some videos. That's what I would suggest. Stay on YouTube. I'm sure YouTube will like me to say that. So don't leave the site. Stay on YouTube. Actually, that's what I did. Is I read the Barg book. I don't remember what that one's called. Intro to Drawing, something like that. So I did all the Barg copies when I was a relatively young artist, and it's good experience. It helps you learn a little bit, but man, there is nothing like finding someone who's much, much better than you and just going and learning and drawing and painting with them. That's what I would suggest. Not a book, but that's what I'd suggest, yeah. All right, so we're gonna get started here. I have, again, some of these strings that aren't, not exactly it, but they're relatively close. And we're gonna be working up in some of these little bouquet balls up here. I don't know, maybe we'll work our way down. But in general, this little square here, that's what we're working with. Now, just like last time, I have my reference here up top, which is laminated. So I can apply a little bit of paint on there just to check the color. And then very easily, I can wipe that off, no problem. Where you do that on a normal reference, you're gonna have a bad time. You're gonna mess up your reference. It sucks the paint out of it if you use the same kind of printer I do, at least. So that's why we've got this laminated. And that, by the way, again, came from an artist called Mark Carter, who I saw here on YouTube, an excellent portrait painter. And he turned me on to that, and I've been using it for this painting. I've been liking it. I've been enjoying it, especially with something like this, where all the colors, all that different hue. Man, it gets a little distracting sometimes. So you end up thinking, oh man, this is green, and that's probably the same green, and that's probably the same green, and none of them are. They're all very different. So it's been useful for this one, especially for the first layer. I feel like my first layer is closer on this painting because of that than it typically is. Of course, syncing is still a problem. You still have low chroma in a lot of places. You still have some graying out from syncing. That's okay. So contrast a little low, chroma's a little low. That's all right. That's the first layer. That's what happens. So we'll keep going, see if we can improve that. Our second layer is going to be dramatically better than this first one. I know from a distance here, at least, the first layer looks pretty good. Trust me, it'll look much, much better on the second. So let's get going. I think we're going to work our way over first, just to kind of finish out this little line, this row we've got here, and then I think we're going to work our way down. Trying to do this methodically is sort of the only way to go about this, because everything's just sort of randomly scattered all over the place. And I have done a transfer drawing here. You can see all those little tiny black lines all over the place. That's what that is. Just a little transfer drawing. So I have to do a lot of comparisons to see exactly where my colors are. Once I've got some of those comparisons done, I should be able to get going a little bit quicker. But for right now, yeah. Okay, hey, so we got lucky. We got one of our colors was spot on, and it goes right here. So there are a lot of different ways to do this, a painting like this, a complex painting like this. One of them is called tiling, where you mix up exactly the right color and you put it in the exact right spot. And that's it. It ends up looking pretty good, especially from a little bit of a distance. You get those colors in the right spot, and the rest is just sort of blending it together. That's not exactly what I'm doing here. What I'm doing here is a little more fluid than that, because I haven't really mixed up the colors that I need and just sort of putting them in the right place, like a what do you call it? Paint by numbers. I haven't done one of those in years. You know, they make one that's supposed to be for artists, one of those paint by numbers. Every time I see a advertisement for it, I just get mad because I'm pretty sure, as an artist, if somebody handed me a paint by numbers, I would be insulted. I don't know. Maybe I'd find it relaxing, but I seriously doubt it. I think I'd want to do my own work before I'd want to do paint by numbers of someone else's. You never know. If those paint by numbers companies are listening, hey, stop it. You don't mean that I am your audience. That's not what you mean. Jeez. All right. Yeah, we're going. So speaking of some products, actually, I had a revelation this week. And that revelation is called, Cosmic Crunchies. I don't know if anyone has ever had this. It's changed my life this week. Cosmic Crunchies by, I think, Space Age Snacks. So they're freeze-dried Skittles is what they are. And I don't know if you've ever had freeze-dried Skittles, anybody out there, but oh my goodness. They're incredible. They're so good. Oh, I love them. I can't get enough. They're hard. They're so crunchy. They're so good. I'm gonna gain like 80 pounds if I continue to eat them. So we got a 1 pound bag, which is already plenty, but we got a 1 pound bag, and man, I'm gonna go through it. Space Age Snacks, if you're listening, I will be your brand ambassador, and you just have to pay me in Cosmic Crunchies. I love them. They're so good. I think there's a bunch of companies that make it, but it's so good. I love them. If you guys have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. Anything art related or snack related, honestly, that's where my mind is today. So,
Debbie Kamalan?
Debbie. What's going on, Debbie?
Just say hello to both of us.
Debbie, hello.
Hi, Debbie.
It's good to hear from you, Debbie.
Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah. We're just doing a little bit of painting today. Nothing too difficult, nothing too exciting. Just getting a little bit done over the weekend. Normally here, my days are kept very busy. So I am the Dean of the ÀNI Art Academies Dominicana, which is where we are right now. We're in my office in the academy. And being the Dean of an academy means that I don't quite get as much time to paint as I would like, but we're closed on the weekends. So weekends are for me and you. So getting a little bit extra done on the weekends here. And I get to hang out with you guys. Get a chat with my artist friends. Nice. So I'm thoroughly enjoying it. We were originally we're gonna be streaming yesterday, but our power was out all day. Don't know what's going on. There's a possibility, however slim, because it would have happened by now, that we will lose some power. That happens a lot in the Dominican Republic. We've got generators, don't worry. So if that does happen, we'll be right back. Well, you'll see that be right back screen. It'll only take us, 30 seconds, a minute, something like that. So no big deal, but just so you know, if it does happen, don't abandon me. We're coming back. Producer Rachel, she'll get on it. Don't worry. All right. Any other questions in chat?
Some comments.
Ooh, we got comments. What's going on?
Kurt.
I'd be reading them myself, by the way, but I'm looking at a painting, so we got producer Rachel getting it done.
Kirk says, "Yo, King Midas never looked so good."
Yo, what's up? Thank you. I appreciate it. You should see him in, I don't know, about a week, maybe 2 weeks. We'll see. He's going to be on the second layer then, and oh boy, he's going to look even better. I have to remind myself of that from time to time, that first layer, it looks pretty good. From a distance here, from the camera there, it's not bad. That doesn't look too bad, but ooh, it does not hold up when you're as close to it as I am. So, gotta remind myself of that. First layer is always a little messy. Gets better. Always gets better.
We've also gotten some feedback that the stream is a little bit choppier than usual. My suspicion is that it's because I was trying at the same time to post a story to your social media that you were live. So I've stopped that now. I've stopped using the internet there. So hopefully that will resolve the issue, but if you still see some choppiness, just let us know in the chat. I'll keep troubleshooting. Thanks.
Yeah, it looks like YouTube is saying our stream health is good, so shouldn't have any issues. It is also a possibility that our internet just isn't doing so hot today. Again, Dominican Republic, that can happen. That is kind of common here. We're gonna do the best we can, and hopefully that gets resolved. But again, like I said, second stream, we're not too far into this experience yet, so yeah, certainly we can make some changes. I would like to too. And I have chronic camera shopping syndrome though, so one of those things where I'm like, oh yeah, we can definitely make this better. We'll just buy more stuff and make it all much cooler. And I gotta try not to. We're gonna turn into a tech channel if we keep doing that, which I do not want. I just get a little too excited about it. A little too, I don't know. I'm a little obsessive sometimes. That's how I got through the Academy program myself so fast. I was so excited about it. I was really obsessive about it. I don't know. I painted for, I want to say my maximum was probably about 16 hours a day, and I did that relatively consistently for the first. What do you think? I would say probably 2 months. I was doing 16-hour days at the Academy. Now, of course, giving your brain time to rest is very important, and I was not really doing that, so that's not a good habit to get into, not a healthy thing to do, but it worked out. It worked out for me. It's okay. Don't know that I'd suggest it to others, but it worked out. Programs like this, the one that I am teaching here, the one that I went through with Anthony Waichulis, really has a very strong impact on your brain. So much so that, you're forming these new pathways, you're forming new creases in your brain, and it's traumatic for your brain. It really is. Just even by the technical sense of the word, you're beating up your brain and asking it to grow back better. Giving yourself that time to heal and sleep and everything. That's the way to do it. I think that's about all I did, and as a matter of fact, when I was in the ÀNI program, is I would paint at the academy, and then I would go home to my own easel, and I would paint at home, and then I would roll straight into bed, and that was about it. That's about what I did. This was 2020. It was during the pandemic, right before the pandemic, and then as soon as the pandemic happened, I was lucky to have all of my equipment still. We were staying in an extended stay apartment. Whole crazy story. We won't get into all that today, but yeah, I was lucky enough to be able to continue working from not home exactly, but close to it, and yeah, I was able to continue, but man, that obsessive streak in me didn't do me any favors during that time, because I did not stop. Like I said, though, it all works out. I've found that, if you're really driven, you're really committed to something, it's all gonna work out. It's fine. Easier said than done, of course. That's confirmation bias. That's what survivorship bias. That's what that is. Is that, of course, I would say that because it worked out for me. So, but I can only give advice on my own experience. So, best I got. Is there a question, comment in the chat?
Not as of right now. I was just thinking of mentioning for the next couple of minutes, I am going to go ahead and try to post this story to your social media.
Yeah.
So it might be choppy for a minute or two, and then it should go back to normal. I did get confirmation from a reliable source that when I stopped using it, it smoothed out. So
let's test it out.
Temporary choppiness. It's only temporary. Stick with us. Thanks for your patience.
We'll do a little test here. We got a lot of our major testing out of the way before we really started streaming. Just doing a lot of test streams, but there's some things we just can't quite tell unless we're actually streaming. So we'll see what happens. And as we make improvements to the stream and the internet and some of the things that we've got going on here, we should see those improvements carrying over to both the quality of the stream in terms of visuals and the quality of the stream in terms of just how stable everything is. But let's test it out for today. See what happens. All right. You may see me, I'm closing one eye here. Makes me feel like an old sailor. But I'm closing one eye and kind of squinting the other one. Just gives me a better sense of some value comparisons especially. But overall comparison for me tends to be a little bit easier. One eye closed. Squinted, definitely. That's how you do those comparisons. But one eye closed, I don't know, for whatever reason, it's just a little bit easier for me. I also tilt my head a lot. You may see me do that. I look like a dog trying to listen to something. All right. If we have any artists in the chat, I would love to hear about what you are working on right now, this weekend, or just in general. If you've got any fun, creative things that you're doing, that you're working on, I'd love to hear about it. I get so excited here at the Academy when one of the apprentices starts doing a new creative project. It's just so much fun. It's so exciting. Those new... Oh, okay. So I don't know how well you can see that. I mixed the color, put it down, kind of put it down in the wrong spot, but man, that was not the right color. So I'm very glad that I get the opportunity to check before I put it down into my painting, because man, that would have been unfortunate. So I'm just remixing that color really quick. And we're gonna try that one again. I think it was right about there. Ah, yeah, and I'm not sure how well you can see that. That's really spot on now. So now we can put it in. And again, I'm not really used to doing this. This is the first painting that I've used this little trick on, and I like it so far. I can't tell if it's, you know what? I can't tell if it's slowing me down at all, or if it's making me more conscious of my color mixing and therefore speeding me up later on. I'm not quite sure. Rachel, would you mute me really quick, just for a second? That's aux. Top left. All right. So I had to clear my throat really quick. Didn't want to deafen anyone. So my microphone is just right here on my shoulder. You can see that. There it is. Means I can lean in real close. It's not that kind of stream, though. At this point, I don't know what kind of stream it is. I'd run a snacks channel, absolutely. Can you imagine the sponsorships in a snacks channel? I'd love it. I'd love it, and if I started a snacks channel, I don't know if I'd fit in this chair anymore. I wouldn't be able to raise my arms because they'd be 100 pounds each. And I'd be in heaven, is what. All right, so you know what? I think I'm going to move away from this just a little bit. And so I've established this kind of upper left of this section, and now I want to establish just over here this kind of lower right of the section, and then work my way in towards the center. I've seen a lot of artists who just sort of work one side to the next, and I'm sort of doing that here, but that's on, you know, more of a larger scale, on the macroscopic scale of the painting itself. But on a smaller scale, I do like to kind of jump around a little bit, try to identify sort of the borders and boundaries, and then work my way inside. I feel like it's a little bit easier for me. It gives me a little bit more context too. That's really important. That's definitely important. So I'm gonna check this color. I don't know if you can see that on camera. There's no color that's changing because that is that color. So I'm spot on. That's that color. So we're gonna move down here, and ooh boy, we gotta kind of find this. Oh jeez, I haven't really given myself a good marker of where all of that goes here. So that looks like right about there. So I'm gonna put that there. So I've got sort of a green, sort of a blue, and it changes and you know, morphs as it moves around in there. So one of the things that makes paintings like this so interesting to paint, if not just to look at, is that everything is constantly changing as you go through it, and there are no just sort of flat colors or anything. Although realistically, at a certain resolution, you should be able to say that about pretty much any artwork, but not always the case. But I find this really fun. A lot of different changes, a lot of textures, a lot of color variation. It's a good time. Which again, by the way, is the reason that I did sort of these pre-mixes here on my palette, and then I'm adjusting them as I go. So they do not remain consistent, and I'm not just placing the pre-mixes that I have. All right, let's keep going here. Get a little bit lower. So we're gonna just establish this sort of corner in here. go. So that'll just just establishing some of those boundaries, and then I can work my way down around these kind of golden balls here, and then back up, and you can see it's sort of contained by this dark shape here. So I'm going to work my way over around this contained dark shape, and then I can fill all of that in. And you can see we already have this left side done, so I can fill all that in, and then I'll probably work my way over a little bit more and then move my way down into the rest of that gold. So these, by the way, these are gold chains in the back here. If I move my painting, there we go. So that's the reference. You can see all of this is all just sort of a blanket of gold chain, and I really love, you can see through it all, so you get all this nice blue and green contrasting with the orange and gold, and man, really nice. Good job, me, because I took that reference. I'm gonna have a YouTube video actually coming out. We've done a lot of the recording on it, but I'm gonna have a video coming out all about the creation of this reference and composition in general. It's something that really interests me. Really love doing it. So yeah, we'll have that coming out. I'm afraid I couldn't give you exactly when, but I don't know. It'll be soon. It'll be soon. I'm enjoying shooting it. I'm enjoying doing some very creative, sort of artsy sort of video with it. I'm just having a good time. So I'm trying not to rush myself at all when it comes to creative work like that I'm not as familiar with. Something like this, I can give myself a pretty hard deadline, and I know that I can keep to it and not really worry too much about it, just because I have the experience with it. But yeah, some creative video projects, I'm trying to do one pretty well myself. You know, every now and then producer Rachel steps in, make sure I don't break anything, but trying to do one myself and just see what happens. And I have been pleasantly surprised so far, but yeah, we'll have to see how the whole thing goes. It's possible I may actually wait until I've completed the entire painting and then put out one big thing about the whole thing, including all of its compositional work and stuff like that. I don't know. I'm not sure yet. Let me know if you guys have any thoughts on something like that, have any ideas. We've been talking about maybe doing like a Patreon for video lessons, that sort of thing. That wouldn't be for some time, but maybe that's something we can consider later in the year, maybe in the summer. I don't know. We'll see. So I'm just going to go through now, establish some of these darker areas. I'm going to try to use some of these blues that I have mixed up here. Yeah, that one looks right. So you can see I have a border, a boundary that I was working on previously. And I like to do that, give myself that little boundary, even though that's not the object that I was painting in that moment. Like you can see this little boundary down here, this one down here. So I'm getting into that gold again, and just giving myself a little bit of that, not only just to mark where it is, but it makes the next day, when I'm painting again the next day, it makes it a little bit easier, a little bit smoother to put some of those values in, some of those colors in, just because I know I've got a good start. So, a little bit easier to blend those all together. Because if you have a sharp line early in your painting process, you're gonna have a sharp line late in your painting process. That's just how it works. So all those paints that I'm using, all oil paints, they're slightly transparent, and as time goes on, they get more and more transparent, which means if I put a little line in there, really hard line in paint on my first layer, oh boy, that's gonna be there forever. So really make sure I don't do that. Of course, you can sand off parts of your painting. You can rub it off as soon as you've done it, things like that. So there are things that you can do, but in order to maintain the best surface I can later on, I got to think about it. Got to think about it now. Is there a question in the chat? Oh, I see a lot of chat over there. I don't see the chat in my monitor here. What's going on?
We have Patrick Corrigan in the chat.
Patrick Corrigan?
Hi, Patrick.
Hi, Patrick. Man, it's been a long time, Patrick.
He would like to know if you have considered creating a Skillshare account.
A Skillshare account. Yeah. So that would be under the sort of the same vein as like the Patreon, that sort of thing. I would love to do that. I think Masterclass is another one. I know far less about that one. But yeah, I could do that. I would do that. That's later on in the year, but yeah, it's a good idea.
He says, love the reference and your technique, of course.
Thank you. Thank you, Patrick. I have worked very hard to become the artist that I am today, both in technique and in composition and things like that. So it just takes a lot of practice. Still practicing to this day, in fact. That's what you're looking at. Some of this is still just practice. When you are driven to something, when you're dedicated to it, have a good time. Practice is fun. You know, something that I have certainly found to be true, dedicated practice is the thing that makes you good at something. For instance, if you like singing, and you never practice, your scales or anything like that, you never practice reading music, something that you're actually not as good at, that is not dedicated practice. It might be practice, you might still be gaining from it. That's not dedicated practice. Dedicated practice is you find the thing that you're bad at, and you tackle it, and you hit it as hard as you can until you are no longer bad at it. And of course, easier said than done. Like we said earlier, that's something that you need a more experienced eye to do that with you, so that you're not spinning your wheels and wasting your time. But dedicated practice, it's not fun. It's not a good time. So you might enjoy painting. If you're enjoying painting, that's not dedicated practice. You're not learning anymore, which is fine. There's something to be said for that. Certainly in this instance, this is not dedicated practice. This is more performance. Right, all the dedicated practice it's all the work that led up to this. You don't get to see that. Of course, I would love to do more videos on dedicated practice. That's something that my mentor Anthony Waichulis, he has spent a great deal of his time and energy spreading through the Waichulis program. Through some of the articles and books that he has read. Actually, speaking of that question earlier, what can you read? What books can you read for shading? It's not a book, but if you go on smartermarks.com, Marks is with an X at the end, smartermarks.com, that is a treasure trove of information, and it's run by Anthony Waichulis, an absolutely a credible source. That is tons and tons and tons of information. Pretty much anything you want to find out, you can bet you'll probably find it there. And again, all of it is good info from people who have studied it for their entire lives and have, really developed the knowledge into something special. So that's what I would suggest. You want to learn a bit? That's where I do it. That's where I did it, in fact, some of them. Anthony did actually write a book. It's called A Primer on Pictorial Composition, Parts 1 through 7. Tough read. It's a tough read. Some of the language in it is it's like reading a medical journal, medical textbook. Not to say that that's bad. It's extremely specific and scientific information and knowledge, and sometimes that's exactly what you want. Just be warned, not a good, cozy, sit down in front of your fireplace kind of read. It's more of a sit down at a desk and take notes and really gain from it. So, you have a question?
Oh, no. I was just going to ask if you could say the title one more time. I put Smarter Marks in the chat, and then I'll also put the title of the book in the chat.
Yeah, as you can tell from the title of the book, it is that's exactly what I'm saying. It's a difficult read. It is a primer on Pictorial Compositions, Parts 1 through 7 by Anthony Waichulis. If you want to know a lot about the actual scientific basis of composition, that's the one. That's a good one. Information that I otherwise have not found anywhere else. I sing Anthony's praises all the time. He doesn't need to hear more of it. However, far too much artistic information we talked a little bit about this on the last stream, far too much artistic information is made up by someone who viewed artists and artists' work and decided, I could do that if only I did this thing, if only I did X, that this artist also did. And that's just not a good foundation for any sort of artistic knowledge. It's not provable. It's not really based on anything other than your own visual evidence, which simply is not good enough. So this one, Primer on Pictorial Composition, Parts 1 through 7, it's something that is based on actual neuroscience. It's based on the biology of how your eyes work and how your brain works and the things that you focus on, and it can really teach you a lot. I lie, I'm afraid, somewhere a little bit in the middle, where this book is extraordinarily scientific and it has incredible information in it that I do absolutely take advantage of, as a lot of my work is visual trickery, right? It's manipulation that once you can really identify how someone sees and the behaviors that they're going to take on when viewing your work, you can take advantage of those behaviors, manipulate people just a little bit so that your painting looks even better, because not only are you presenting artwork that looks good, but you're presenting artwork that changes the way people will perceive your work by manipulating their behavior. So I want to give you an example of that, because I know that's a lot. That's a little bit complicated. So something that I do with a lot of my larger work, so not this one, my larger work though, for instance, the second to last painting that I did, it's based on The Walrus and the Carpenter, a poem by Lewis Carroll in Through the Looking Glass. Really lovely, really nice. That painting is meant to be viewed from a bit of a distance, and from, let's say, 5 feet away, the painting looks wonderful. It looks really, really quite nice. If I can toot my own horn for a second, it looks quite nice. And it's detailed enough and high enough resolution that it's sort of asking you to come forward. And so I'm taking advantage of the behavior that I think a viewer might have, which is I'm looking at it from a, walking by sort of distance, about 5 feet. And, ooh, wow, this is a very high resolution, very detailed sort of artwork. And so I'm going to get a little bit closer. And so now there's more attention being put on my art piece. That's great. We definitely want that. So already that little bit of manipulation has succeeded. But as you get a little bit closer, some of those details don't quite hold up. And that's a little bit on purpose. That's a little bit more practicality. It's a larger-ish painting, and so I don't want to spend 3 years on this painting. So not all of it is to the minute detail and the highest resolution that I might like. But I'm very happy with them, happy with that resolution. So I've asked someone to step forward by having that high resolution. However, when they do, some of it falls apart a little bit. So what I've done is I've given it very, very specific parts, usually the bottom left corner. It's most of the bottom, third, I would say, is far more detailed than the rest of it. And so you can step forward and all of a sudden you're seeing these tiny grains of sand and these little minuscule reflections that have been done with, these tiny brushes here, these little tiny, just barely anything sort of brushes. And you can't see those unless you have walked up to it. So now I've taken advantage again, where I'm giving someone just that little bit more information if they've walked up. I've rewarded someone for the behavior that I am trying to give them, right? For the behavior that I'm trying to elicit from them. So now I'm rewarding that behavior. And so because they've gotten a reward, they look a little bit closer. And this is all very easy to do. For instance, in that painting, I tend to hang it just a little bit too high, which means everyone's looking at the bottom third more than the top third. And the bottom third has a little bit more detail, higher resolution than the top third. So your eye gets drawn down as you get closer to it. This is all manipulation of someone's behavior. And as a result, my painting looks better for it. So anyway, long story short, all of that's all stuff that's more, scientifically curated knowledge. And that's the sort of thing that you will find in Anthony's book. Maybe not that thing specifically, but that's the type of thing that you're looking for. What you are not looking for is for someone to say, well, I have this very specific, spiral in my artwork, and therefore I have good artwork. That's not good enough. If you want to use any sort of overlays in your artwork, whether it's golden ratio and spirals and things like that, I do in some of my artwork. But understand that those are no more useful than any other overlay you could possibly make. If you were just to draw random dots on your painting and say, I'm going to use those randomized dots as focal points and overlay that on top of your painting, you will find that that is just as useful. So, and that has scientific basis to it. Again, you can read that book, it talks all about it. So, not to say that those are not useful things, especially the golden spiral and things like this. It is, and I do use it myself. But just understand that using that alone, that doesn't make your artwork good. You have to have good artwork, and you also happen to have structure behind it. That's fine. So anyway, long-winded. I don't even remember what the question, how we got on this. It was just about Anthony's book, I think. But yeah, I would definitely suggest that book if you are very interested in some scientific knowledge behind some artwork and really understanding it and being able to use it to your advantage as an artist. A lot of room for things like that. All right, I do see a question in the chat. What's going on? Producer Rachel, take me to it.
Well, first, fellow artist Deborah Kearse is in the chat.
Deborah Kearse. Good to hear from you, Deborah Kearse.
She says, "Hi, Maxwell. You are fantastic."
Thank you, Deborah.
Which Kearse. I agree with. But I am not biased at all.
Right.
Patrick is commenting on what you were speaking about. He says, that sounds super useful. Mm-hmm. I love getting into the science behind the emotional responses. Hearing you talk about the observer's experience as almost a conversation between the piece and themselves is super interesting. I'm quite far from doing anything on the scale.
Well, thank you, Patrick. Yeah, I mean, and thank you, Deborah. I appreciate your comments. I have found it wildly interesting, and one of the major reasons why I went to Anthony over, maybe one of the other more common atelier style programs, those 19th, 20th century atelier style, French atelier style programs, is because of this scientific basis. I think this is far more interesting, and being able to really understand not just what good artwork looks like, but what it does for you, and that conversation that you are having. I think that is far, far more interesting. Artwork definitely is meant to be dialogue. It's conversation. It's communication. And if you are more effective at communicating because you understand that communication better, then you're a better painter, or at least a better composer. I guess maybe it is possible. You've got the skills of composition and communication, but not the language to do it. That is, I would argue, what painting skill more is than anything, is just language. So, maybe you speak great language, but you've got no ideas and you're not communicating anything at all. Certainly another pitfall. You've got to be good at all of it. And that is the part that I'm still working on. I'm still learning. That's the deliberate practice right now for me, is communication of ideas. And got a lot of those ideas, to be fair, but I think any good artist would tell you that's what they're working on for the rest of their lives. That's it. So last week, actually, we were talking a little bit about abstract work and if perhaps I would consider doing abstract work in the future, and if I find specifically, I think we're talking about non-representational artwork, and if I find that as productive, I guess, or if I find that quite as interesting or anything like that. And ultimately my answer was that I use abstraction constantly. In fact, I'm doing it right now, that this is representational, absolutely, but it's also very abstract, along with, some of these reflections in here. This is pure abstraction, very difficult to even see what it is. But when you have the full context, it is representational, just very abstracted. And I think because non-representational art, to me, isn't communicating as much, if anything, even, and certainly this could be bias, because I have such a fondness towards representational art, and specifically high-resolution representational art. So this could be bias, but I feel that it doesn't represent as much. It doesn't, it certainly doesn't represent as much. It doesn't communicate as much. And for me, that's why I paint. That's what I'm doing. I'm communicating, I'm telling a story. And if I can't do that because of my medium, I'm going to change my medium. That's actually where I started and, started to develop an interest in visual arts in the first place, as I was working on very large-scale theatrical puppetry, which, I still love it. It's still so cool. But that really large-scale theatrical puppetry, very cool, very fun. You're doing characters and movement, and you're communicating a character and who or what that character is and how they feel and how they're expressing themselves. And that's where I started all of this. And then I started to have an interest in painting and sort of developed from there. But yeah, without that initial communication, I don't think I would have been interested. I don't think I would have done it. So this is, as much as it certainly doesn't look like it, this is just an extension of the 30-foot tall fire-breathing dragon that I made in like 2018, something like that. 2018, does that sound right? Producer Rachel says 2019. She would know better than I would. My memory is just a blur of giant creative projects and cool, fun things, and I don't know, probably spending too much money and on projects like that. So I got to a point where, the theatrical projects just weren't quite scratching the itch for me anymore, that creative itch. And I thought, oh man, I want to go off and do some of this myself. And my initial thought was maybe I should start my own, puppet theater production kind of thing. And that's a mistake. At least it was for me. I don't know. Maybe there's some puppeteers out there who think, yeah, this is also the way to go for me. I don't know. Maybe it is. But for me, I do feel like that would have been a mistake. So thought a lot about it and decided on, well, maybe I should start painting. And then I did. And here we are. So, long story short. And then I did. And that's it. I just love artistic and creative endeavors like this. And I will say, if you also love creative artistic endeavors like this, there's no reason you can't do it. You just gotta start. I think that's honestly the most difficult part for most people. You just gotta do it. You just gotta decide that you're going to, and then do it. I will also say, creativity is a muscle. I certainly feel that way. And if you are not exercising that muscle, you're never going to get better at it. And if you have let that muscle shrivel and die, a lot of people have. But you can only improve it if you start using it again. You got to keep going with it. I've seen a lot of painters who, they say, oh, I haven't painted in, a year, 2 years. I had a baby, I bought a house, whatever it was. And ultimately, they end up really dropping off and losing a lot of it. And then they get frustrated and say, well, I'm just not good at it anymore. And maybe it's not something I can do anymore. And it's not true. It's just you haven't used it. You got to use it again. That's really all it is. Certainly not to imply that that's any sort of an issue. Have babies, buy houses, whatever. But just know that you spend a lot of time away from your artwork. Your artwork's you're gonna start to lose it a little bit. Just gotta get it back. And the more you do, the more you want to do, the more you have to do. Producer Rachel can tell you, she can tell when I haven't painted that day because I've been too busy with something else. I'm just frustrated. I have a bad day. And sometimes I come home and I say, oh, it's a good day. It's like, what'd you get done? And I'm like, I don't know, practically nothing. But the important part is that I painted. I got a little bit of painting done, or I got some composition done, or, I took some reference photos that I'm really excited about, or I was just writing, creative ideas and researching things, and that does it for me. That's, very exciting for me. Honestly, I enjoy composing more than anything else. And that's kind of what we were talking about earlier, is if you are just enjoying it, that is not deliberate practice. You're not getting better. And I really enjoy composition and research and thinking about things and what I'm going to do next and why, and the symbolism and imagery and all of these things. I really, really enjoy it. But I enjoy it because I'm good at it. And that means I'm not getting better at it because I'm focusing on the things that I'm already good at. So, kind of a dilemma there. You want to enjoy the creative process? That means you're not getting better at the creative process. That's okay. There's certainly a time for that. All right, so I'm gonna back up. Say I'm doing that dog listening to things thing. Yeah, so my values are a little off here. So I'm just gonna darken this up a little bit. Like I've been saying, second layer is always gonna be better anyway. So if I'm pretty close, pretty much just gonna leave it. But I do want to be as close as I can within reason. It is always better, I have found, to be close and move on. Perfection will keep you from finishing something. So if it is close and done, it is better than perfect but never finished. Especially in the case of something like this, it's the first layer. First layer is never going to be perfect anyway, so why be so specific about it? Of course, that's not something that I would tell my students. That's not something that's not advice that everyone holds, because I think it is better to do something like this the best you possibly can so that your next layer is even better, even better, even better. But you just kind of have to find that equilibrium of, well, this is as good as I think it's going to get right now, and it's worth it to me to either continue on it in this layer right now in the way that I'm doing it, or it isn't. And it's good enough, and the next layer is going to be even better. There's a little bit of what do I want to say? You're sort of playing mind games with yourself about things like that, though. Because if you are telling yourself, well, the next layer is going to get better, so this one's just fine, this is okay, I can let it go. And then you get to your next layer and you say the same thing, well, now you're in trouble. So you do have to know yourself a little bit and know when you can give yourself that leeway and when you can't. And right now, I can give myself this leeway. I am my hardest critic by a lot. So I'm going to get to my second layer. And again, producer Rachel can tell you, I'm going to hate it. I'm going to say, this is so bad. It looks terrible. I'm a bad artist. I'm going to say all these things. And I'm going to believe it. And I'm going to say, this is true. And then about 2 weeks is going to go by, and then I'll get through enough of it to be like, wow, this is a very good painting. The creative struggle. We have a question?
Yes.
Okay.
Kirk says, being really good at something means you have to tackle the hard things. What motivates you to lean into those things consistently?
What motivates me to tackle the most difficult things? So my experience with this is maybe not the best advice. My experience, though, is that I am just a pretty obsessive guy when it comes to things like this. And if I don't tackle the things that I'm not good at, the things that are important to me, but I'm not good at, like I'll lose sleep over it. You know, like I'll some of the least healthy things that I do, right, are I will take a picture of my painting. Usually this is in the second layer when I hate it. And I'll take a picture of this painting and I'll work for it as long as I can, and I'll be exhausted, but I won't want to stop. And it'll just get worse and worse and worse because now I'm tired, and so I'm not doing my best work. And then I'll take a picture of it, and then I'll go home too tired to do anything else. And I'll just stare at the picture. And it just won't, I'll just obsess over how it's not good enough. And it's unpleasant, and I don't have a good time when I do stuff like that. And so improving my work and deliberate practice and these things is, in my experience, that's how you get rid of that feeling, and that's how you move on and feel better about yourself and better about your work. And that's really nice, and it's really pleasant to feel that way. And so I focus on those things because I kind of can't help it. And if I didn't focus on those things and I continued to be not as good of an artist, I would also be not as nice of a person. I wouldn't like myself as much, and so not so good. Not a healthy answer, I'm afraid. But I think the other half of that is far healthier, that I know about myself, is that I just like to learn. I just like to learn. I like to progress. I like to get better at stuff. Although sort of by the same token, it's because it makes me feel good about myself, you know? Hey, listen, try to keep to questions that aren't so deep, would you? So we have another question?
A comment.
Okay.
We have Joe Gibson in the chat.
Joe Gibson!
And in true Joe fashion, he's easing the tension.
Oh, thank you, Joe. I appreciate that.
He says, wowie zowie.
Man, wowie zowie indeed, Joe. You know what I'm saying? Thank you, Joe. I appreciate it. Yeah. Yeah, I'm afraid that intensity that I bring with things like this, with projects like this, with creativity in general, a lot of other things in my life, you know, that intensity is, I don't know, that's what drives me forward, though. It pushes me forward. Makes me good at stuff. When producer Rachel and I, first went on this creative journey, when we first started this, we were in the position where I could say, I want to do this, and if I fail, it would be okay. You know, it's not gonna tank us. We don't have kids. We're not hugely tied down to one thing, one area, anything like that. So it was relatively easy to do something like that. And because of that, the attitude that I was therefore able to take was that I would I would do what the Vikings did. Now, by the way, I want to tell you this story. Just know that it's not true. The story is not true, but I do really like it. You know, it's just such a romantic idea, such a cool thing. Romantic as in like art period of romance, not romantic as in ooh la la romantic. Not the same. But this sort of romantic idea that the Vikings would sail to other places, other islands, and when they got there, they would burn their own ships. And in burning their own ships, what they were saying is that they were either going to invade, take over, pillage these other places, and take their ships in order to get back home, or they would die. And that was it. And I was able, again, because of our situation, but I started having this motto that I was going to burn my ships. And that meant that I was going to succeed at my endeavors or die. And of course, again, pretty overboard, very dramatic, but it's a nice idea, right? It's a romantic sort of thing, like yes, I can do this, or I will die trying. I wasn't actually going to die, but I got to say that because of the privileges that I had at the time. That I was able to say, I'll do this or die, because I wouldn't die. So, but that's sort of, I don't know. I hold to that sometimes, that I'm going to be successful because I've decided that I'm going to be successful. And again, I have the ability to say things like that, and I've got privileges that some people don't, that allow me to have that attitude. But if you also have those privileges that allow you to have that attitude, have it. Do it. Do it. Decide that you are going to be successful, and then do it. No excuses. Burn your ships. There's no way out. You're going to do it. And then maybe you will. You never know. That's not a good sound. Don't want to hear your doctor making that sound, your barber. That's weird. I'm doing okay. You can see here, I sort of wrapped around. Oh, we switched cameras. Yeah, give me the artwork back. There we go. So I sort of wrapped around this area, and I didn't really mean to do that. I was distracted. I was talking. We were chatting. And in doing so, you can see here, I'll point here. This little dark section right here, I now have in the wrong spot. It's over here. It should be over there. So I'm just going to have to move that over just a little bit. So quick drawing error there, but easily fixable, easy to fix. No issue, but just something I got to do. And that's one of those things that you can't let it go. That's one of those things. Where are we? Can't see me. Hello. There we go. There you go. That's one of those things that you have to be more specific. You have to be harder on yourself. You cannot let things like this go, where you got drawing errors, you got something that's actually just wrong. Can't let that go. If it's a little off, the contrast should be higher, the chroma's a little low, something like that. That's okay. Maybe in that case you can get past it, but something like this, you got a drawing error. Nope. Gotta go back. Gotta do it again. Producer Rachel, what's going on? Got an update for us?
Deborah Kears.
From the weather room?
The weather room. Deborah Kears has a question regarding what we were talking about. You had a unique opportunity to set up a whole new art life in a new country. So are you and Rachel finding your new studios in the DR more inviting and conducive to creative endeavors than your U.S. spaces?
Good question. In more inviting, I would say, yeah, I think that's fair. These studios, so this is what she's referring to as the ÀNI Art Academies Dominicana, of which I am the dean, again, if you're just joining us. Or if you just want to hear me brag about it more, I guess that's fine too. So I'm the dean of this academy, and the studio space that I use while this is my personal office, the studio space just out there is a shared studio space and is set up to be conducive for instruction and as a shared studio space. So in that way, certainly this space is more inviting. And previously, in my home studios away from here, I would previously set up a studio that I was very comfortable in, that I really enjoyed being in. I think that's important as an artist, that if you have some sort of inconvenience when you're painting, for instance, if you get hot very easily, but your home studio is not air conditioned, you're not going to want to go in there. It's not going to be inviting to you personally, and you have to get over things like that. You have to do something about it. Otherwise, it's going to be a struggle in some way for you to do your work, and that's no good. So if you have to jump through hurdles in order to do your work, you're probably not going to do it. That's what I have found. That's also, before I get back to your question, that's also something that Adam Savage calls first order retrievability, is that you will use the tools that you have easily available. And if your tools are all in a drawer and you have to pull open the drawer and then kind of sort through things and find it, you're probably not going to use it. You're going to find whatever's sitting on your counter. So first order retrievability is nothing is behind anything else. Nothing is in drawers. It's all out, in little jars, so it's readily available for you. I have drawers and drawers here of different brushes and things, but the ones that I'm actively using right now, that's here. Because if I know this little brush right here, this is a very specific brush, it has a very specific use case, and if it's in a drawer, I'm not going to use it. I'm going to use something that is closer and more readily available. And that's bad, because that can make my artwork suffer. The same thing goes for your studio space. That if you are in a studio space where you have to jump through some hurdle in order to work, you're not going to do it. So anyway, now that rant is over, my previous home studio spaces were set up to my liking, and I really enjoyed them and I really loved them. They weren't good for inviting people in, really. I had a couple of models in my previous home studio spaces, and it functioned fine. That's not exactly what it was meant for. And so a space like this is certainly much, much better if you're trying to collaborate at all, or if you are learning from others at all. It's much better because it's so much more inviting for so many different artists of different levels, also of different experiences, and you can really gain a lot from being in groups like that. So in that way, I do really love it here. I really love getting that experience of just being with other artists and being able to talk with everyone and discuss things and, hey, did you hear about this thing? Or I'm trying out this new technique or this new material. Things like that are just, it's really nice. I certainly never would have, tested out these different pencils, for instance. There's a student right now testing out some pretty specific pencils that I certainly never would have. And if she finds out that, yeah, these are absolutely better, then I don't know, maybe I would switch to them. But I wouldn't test it myself, just because I'm not as interested in drawing and charcoal drawing, so wouldn't have gotten around to it. So yeah, in that way, I really do think that a studio space like this is really wonderful. But on the other hand, there's people all the time. They're everywhere. Just get out of here. Leave me alone. Let me work. I don't know. So yeah, you got a little bit of everything. I enjoy seeing everybody. I enjoy the discussion, the kind of collaboration. But at the same time, I want to be left alone. Get out of here. Painting, artwork in general, I don't know, for me can be very... it's kind of just a thing you do in solitude, I'm not used to having a lot of people around when I paint. And part of the reason actually that I'm painting here, and I'm going really quite slow, is because I end up just talking to everybody all the time. And it's sort of the same here at the studios that, somebody says, hey, I really like what you're doing with this painting. Why are you doing that? And now we're about to have an hour-long conversation about just the simplest of things, because I say something interesting and they say, hey, wow, that's interesting. I've never heard that. And I'm like, oh, well, let me tell you where I heard it and this background story, so on and so on. So, yeah, I don't know. I get myself in trouble because there's too much collaboration. So, also, teaching is, I don't know, it's very different. I enjoy it. It's cool. It's a fun experience. I will say that I end up giving a lot of my time to my students, which, of course, that's what they need. They're students. Yeah, of course. But as a result, I end up sacrificing a lot of my time for my paintings. So I'm not, developing my career, my artwork as quick as probably I could be. But there is no situation where one of my students says, hey, I really need your help with something. I really need this explained, whatever it is. And I would just say, no, it's my time to paint right now. It's not going to happen. So that is, I think, the biggest struggle of being here and of teaching in general. But I do enjoy it. But right now, it's not that time. It's time to paint. So let's get back to it. So something that I want to show you guys. These are just little clay shaper tools. They're little silicone, really bendy little tools. And I'm going to use this because right up here, I'm going to clear away my paint on it there. Right up there, this is a little shiny spot, very, very small, very subtle. So what I'm going to do is just come over here, because I've already covered over that spot with paint, is I'm going to come over here and I'm just going to erase just this little bit. I don't know how well you can see that, just that little white spot there now. Contrasturally next to it, it is still darker than the white background that's next to it, but is much brighter than it was before. So I just want that little bit of light, and then I can paint back into that. And it should be a little bit brighter for me now. So those are nice little tools. I don't know if anybody's ever used those before. I think Treacle carries some of those. These ones are just tools that I have had forever, from back when I was actually just doing some clay work. I was experimenting with some sculpture in clay because, like I said, I just had to get that creative fix, It was just, it was an itch, and hey, I can stop at any time, but it was, I just had to get it. So yeah, I bought some clay and some clay tools, and found that I didn't enjoy it quite as much as I enjoyed drawing and painting, things like that. So, but I still get use out of them today, which is a dangerous thought if perhaps you have hoarding tendencies of like, well, but it's an art tool. I can still use it for something. I think all of us artists get those tendencies. We all have that little bit of like, oh, but maybe I could, like, I don't know, scrape my palette with it, whatever it is. So, I've got messages. I gotta mute that. Joe, you're messaging me. Put it in the chat, my man. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, I appreciate your feedback. Joe is planning his honeymoon at a cafe right now, so that's why he's not watching. Good excuse, Joe. Listen, Joe, what's more important? My stream, my one stream, or the future with your wife? I don't know. I don't think he's watching right now, so I hope he watches this back. Or Patrick, you'll have to tell him. We should just clip that, send it to him. Get your priorities straight, man. If I had to set up a brand new studio again, and of course I will eventually, if I had to set up a brand new studio again, I do like having some space for people to be around. I'd probably like put a couch in there or something, so I could have some people hang out with me. Obviously, we'd have a desk for producer Rachel so that we can continue live streaming. I don't know. I like streaming. It's fun. I don't know if I'm good at it. It's fun. Something that, some advice that I have heard online, because, I don't know, YouTube's where I get all my information, I guess. Some advice that I've heard online is that learning to just talk when you can't see another person, really weird experience, takes a lot of practice. So I'm practicing now. I just talk anyway, though. Producer Rachel can tell you, I just talk. Especially about art things. Oh man, talk forever, and I do. that's what this is. You're seeing it. I'm too interested in it not to talk. Okay, so yeah, I'm back to that place that we were at before, where I would like to be doing this little portion up here, this little white empty area. I would love to be doing that right now, but I can't. I don't think I can, because I'm gonna mess myself up unless I fix this little drawing error right here. This little white spot right up here, that's supposed to be filled, and it's not, because what's supposed to be there is over here. So yeah, I think I've been avoiding it long enough. I'm gonna have to do that little spot. And good for you guys, because it means you get to watch me. Hold on, where is it? There it is. It means you get to watch me just totally mess up my painting and try to get it back. It's rare that I have to go in and do surgery like this. So always fun to get to see things like this. Okay, so this little part right here, this dip down, this one right here. Actually here, you know what? I got a little needle pointer so I can show you guys. This point right here that dips down, this is in the wrong place. That's part of this. This little circle right here, this is a little bit too small. It needs to move over to the right, upper right. This little corner right there, that's in the wrong spot, needs to move up and to the right just a little bit. And this little arc right here, that is the major thing that's off. So that's gonna have to move way up, way over here. So that's the major issue. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna try to wipe a little bit of this out. Just a bunch of it, just take it out. Because I put it there once, it means I can do it again, it's fine. Try not to be upset about any wasted time when drawing. No reason. If you did it once, you can do it again. And something that I'm gonna do here, I'm gonna get my palette back. Let's see, you can get a palette cam going on. There it is. Okay, so I have my medium cup open. I have a little dual medium cups here, and one of them is for my solvent, usually Gamsol, odorless mineral spirits, something like that. I have nothing in there. It's totally empty, and it remains closed, and will remain so probably for most of this painting. I don't know that I'll ever use it for this painting. I try not to. In a shared studio space, you should really try not to use solvents. Some people have an aversion to them. My other one, though, here, this is Gamblin's Neo McGilp. Gamblin is a brand that I used a lot, quite a lot, before going to the ÀNI Academy, and some things have really stuck with me, like this Neo McGilp. I really like it, as opposed to the Flemish wax medium that I was taught with, which I also used some, but they're actually pretty similar. A lot more liquidy on this one. But I'm going to take just a little bit of that, and I'm going to put it on my palette, and then in order for it not to dry, I'm also going to close that back up. Now, that's also how I wash my brushes, is actually in this medium. If I'm just like changing colors, something like that, I'll just kind of rinse it in that medium, and then in the color itself, and then wipe it out, and then I can continue. When actually finished with a painting, I do actually wash my brushes, not in medium, but soap and water, which is another conversation, by the way. A lot of people really don't like that you do that, and it does maybe damage your brushes. In my experience, I damage my brushes much faster painting than anything else, though. So anyway, again, different conversation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of this Neo McGilp here on my brush, just a little bit, and then I'm going to wipe off my brush, because again, I'm just getting that paint out of there. I'm just gonna do that. I've got just paper towel down here, by the way. That's all this is. So every time my hand goes down like that, I'm just wiping out my brushes. And I'm not, by the way, ooh, yeah, you know what? I want to mention that really quick here for you guys. You had it. When I am wiping out my brushes, the kind of move that I'm doing, in case any other painters are out there, it's squeeze and then pull. And that's about it. So you can see just a ton of lines on there. What I'm not doing is sort of scrubbing, that sort of like circle motion that you see a lot of people do. That's probably going to be the thing to damage your brushes. And it also gets all those little fibers and lint and everything. It puts that in your brush, and then that puts it in your paint, and then that puts it in your painting. And you really don't want that. So what I'm doing one-handed, actually here, Rachel, if you can get rid of my key, so we can see, there you go. So what I'm doing one-handed is I'm putting my brush down, I'm folding it over with my middle finger, pressing down, and then pulling the brush out. So it's just that squeeze and pull is all I'm doing. So I'm just pulling some of the paint out of the brush. All right, so back to it now. I'm going to take just a little bit of this medium, just a little bit. All right, and now on the painting, so you can see here, just right there, I did pull on it, just like this. I tried to scrape some of this off. You can see it's not really coming off. You got a little bit coming off, but it's not doing great. It's more just sort of pushing it around. So once I've done that, and I've got as much off as I can, I'm going to go back in with my medium one more time, just sort of wet this space a little bit. See if I can get it to move a little bit more. And I'm going to make a mess. That's what's going to happen. And then I'm going to use this again and try to push it around, pull that off. A little bit better. You can see I darkened the area. I made it all just a little bit gray. So I'll have to deal with my probably a lower saturation and lower contrast now as a result, because I no longer have that white background. And I'm just going to make sure that I don't have any more medium on the surface, because that will again impact this layer that I'm doing here, so I don't want that. Okay, so we've got a question. Producer Rachel, what you got?
A couple of comments and a question.
Mm-hmm.
Patrick and Joe, I hope you don't mind. I'm going to skip ahead because Deborah's question pertains to what we're talking about right now. Then we'll come back to Patrick and Joe. So Deborah asks, she says she uses Gamblin and solvent gel medium.
Okay.
If you have ever tried it, what is the advantage of using McGilp?
I haven't. You know, my experience with some painting mediums is a little bit limited, and the reason is I have found that your choice of medium actually makes far less difference than you might think. Basically, if you are using medium, it should be because, I don't know, it just works with what you're doing, and it gives you a little more fluidity to your painting. And otherwise, I found it doesn't really make a ton of difference. Also, you know, drying times, it can impact drying times really significantly. And I don't really want to impact my drying times. So as a result, I use a medium that, while Neo McGilp does speed up your drying times a tiny bit, it's not really noticeable. It certainly doesn't slow your drying times, which would mean I can't work on top of something or into something the next day. Don't want that. And it doesn't speed them up, which means it would start getting tacky and unpleasant at the end of the day. I don't want that either. So I have tried just a bunch of stuff throughout the years, and I just sort of settled on one that I felt was good and I liked, and that was kind of it. And I stopped there. So it's possible that I did try that at some point, but I don't really remember. The Flemish wax medium that Anthony uses is very similar to this Neo McGilp. It's maybe just a little bit thicker, a little bit more grainy. Doesn't move quite as easily. but yeah, they're both. What do you call that? They're solid until you touch them, and then they start to become liquid. What is the name for that? I don't know. Don't remember, I'm afraid. Anyway, so the both of those mediums are fairly similar. It's just this one is more of like a jelly, and then you start using it and it becomes very liquid, where the Flemish wax medium, which has changed its name a couple times, so I think it's still called Flemish wax medium, but I don't really remember. Again, I haven't used it in a couple years, but we have a tube of it out there anyway. They're similar in that way, except that starts a lot firmer, a lot more kind of chunky, a little bit grainy, and then as you use it, it becomes a little bit softer, a little bit more slick and jelly-like. And so this one is just kind of a step ahead of that, where it's already a little bit more fluid. And since I use it very sparingly, and I'm using it to make my paints more fluid, it just feels right to me. So I don't think I would think too much more about your medium choice than that. If it feels good, it feels right, you enjoy using it, and it's impacting your drawing times or not in the way that you would like, then use it. Yeah, that's about it. I've tried like black oil and things like that. I've tried very classical mediums. I've tried mixing my own mediums. And ultimately what I have found is just, it's good. It's fine. One doesn't help enough more than the other to make any huge impact to me. So.
Patrick suggested we might mean a non-Newtonian fluid, or Debbie said fixotropic.
Fixotropic, there you go. Yeah, fixotropic. There you go. Thank you, Patrick. I appreciate your help. Yeah, fixotropic is exactly what it is. Oh, Deborah. I'm sorry. What did Patrick say?
Non-Newtonian fluid.
Well, Patrick, forget it. I'm no longer thanking you.
Well, you'll want to thank him because he complimented your stream. I'm getting back to some other comments we've had. I
don't need your compliments. I'm kidding. I beg you.
He said he likes to check out a lot of new streamers on Twitch.
Yeah.
And that in comparison to those, he's really appreciating your stream.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Patrick. Thank you. Yeah, those guys are noobs. Yeah, I'm an old pro. It's not true. Yeah, this is my second stream. I just, I got interested in it. I like doing it. It's fun. So.
We do have another question from the honeymooners.
Okay.
I think they might be thinking about going to Italy because Joe asks, thoughts on famous art pieces in Italy? Any hot takes like the Statue of David is overrated or something like that?
I mean, if you've been exposed to a specific artwork again and again and again, maybe it won't have as big of an impact on you, but the Pietà, I believe that's in Italy. Michelangelo's. Nobody do that. Michelangelo. Anyway, Michelangelo's Pietà. I would go for that one. God, beautiful sculpture. Go to Florence though. Yeah, if you're going to Italy and looking at artwork, I think Florence is probably the place to be. Birthplace of the Renaissance. Yeah, that's where I'd go. But I don't know. I think hot take. I think if you're going for artwork, you're going to Paris or you're going to France in general. I don't know. I think I've never been, honestly, so I don't think I could tell you enough. And if everyone's like, oh no, France is stupid and you got to go to Italy, well, you're probably right because you probably know more than I do. In terms of actually seeing it in person, viewing it in person, I don't know. But yeah, I would love to go to the Louvre. And if I were in Italy, I would love to go to Florence. Love to see some of that. I want to say in Florence, just the number of public space artworks and sculptures and things like that that are surviving from the birth of the Renaissance. I mean, it's just incredible. And, walk into a church and see a 14th century fresco. It's absurd. Really, really cool that you can see stuff like that. Or you could walk around in the US and see something from the 60s. I don't know. It's just not quite the same. Of course, there are older things here, but yeah, the history there, man, would love to experience that.
Debbie suggests that if you go to Florence, you should visit, and forgive me, it's either Zecchi or Zecchi. It's like a candy store for artists.
Oh. I think I've seen that. Is that they have all of the jars of pigments all over the walls? Is that one? That'd be cool. Yeah, I would love to. Producer Rachel and I would love to travel the world a little bit more. It seems like from being off in a different country, living in a different country, it seems like we're world travelers, and I'm afraid we're not. I'm afraid we've gone back and forth from the US to the Dominican Republic. That's about it. So hopefully that'll change. Hopefully we can get out a little bit more, see some of the world's most beautiful artwork, which I think Florence probably qualifies. I would love to visit. Also, Patrick, let's get back to this for a second. Thank you. Honestly, thank you. Yeah, we've been working hard on the stream and trying to make it as nice and professional and easy viewing as possible. And we're getting there. There's some changes we have to make. I think the biggest one, honestly, is this camera angle that you're looking from right now. It's not bad. It's pretty good. It's just too far, especially for a painting of this size. Maybe if I were doing a larger painting, that'd be great. But I think I would like to keep this one and get a second camera angle much, much closer. This lens is a 50 millimeter, and I would love to get like a, 50 to 210 zoom lens, something that I can get really, really up close and you can really see the brushwork that I'm doing, because I'm not quite cutting it, not for me. So maybe on the second layer we can do that, and I don't know if we'll have something ready by then, but it'd be cool. It'd be nice. Or maybe we'll just put this camera here. I'm gonna lean so you can see it. Where is it? There it is. There it is. That camera right there, just over my shoulder. You can see it. So maybe we can just pull that camera way too close and it'll be very in my way, but then you'll be able to see. So I don't know, maybe we can do that. So let's tell you what, let's get back to this painting for just a second. I want to show you guys. I did just a little bit of fixing. Oh yeah, one more quick question. What you got?
This is from Deborah Kears.
Deb.
Are there master artists from the DR that we maybe haven't learned about over the centuries?
Okay, so I don't want to be too generous, and I also don't want to be insulting, right? So I will say that the Dominican Republic has not historically had an appreciation for representational fine art. And that appears to be changing along with the United States, the revival of realism happening in the US. But because historically that has not been the case here, there's not a lot. There are some artists here who I have heard about, who people have touted as some really incredible artists here. I've been fortunate enough to meet a couple of very skilled artists here, but in terms of like old masters, that sort of thing, I am maybe just not knowledgeable enough to know of them. But yeah, in my experience, I don't think so. I think, honestly, and it's pretty cool to say, I think some of the students here at the ÀNI Academy Dominicana are, man, some of the best artists in the DR. We've got some absolute incredible artists here. So I think they might qualify more than anybody. I don't know.
We visited that museum in Santiago. I think it was called Centro Leon.
Centro Leon, yep.
That's CENTROLEON, and it's in Santiago. They may have information on their website, Deborah, because I do remember they had quite a display of some of the historic artwork as well as modern art. So I'll put that in the chat. There's probably more information there.
Producer Rachel, going to work. Thank you. You see, Patrick, my secret, my trick here as to why the stream is going well is because I'm just hanging out and painting. I'm not doing any of the hard work. That's Rachel's job.
I think we bullied Patrick too much earlier. He said, "This is an emotional roller coaster right now."
Patrick, give me your lunch money. Okay. We're going to find a new way to monetize art streams just by bullying people. That's probably not a good idea. All right, so I'm deciding what to do next. We've pretty well finished our surgery here. We have a better, but ooh, something fell. We've got much better spacing there. Thank you. Oh, just more paint, more paper towels. I would love to use, by the way, I don't know, we had those like blue shop towels for a little while, and I'm stuck now with like just cheap bad paper towels. I think those blue shop towels, those are much better. Far less lint comes off of those, which means less lint in your painting. Just much better. All right, so what I really want to do is come down into this little golden ball right here. That's what I want to do, but that's not. I shouldn't do that. I should come back up here, finish all this out before things start to get a little too tacky, and I struggle to blend them together. So if I were lazy, I would continue downward because that's the more fun area. But I'm not. I gotta do what's on top here. So that's where we're going, just right up here. Yep, a little too blue there. Gotta readjust our palette. Lower some of that chroma. I use chroma and saturation interchangeably, by the way. While technically they are different, if you are painting versus if you're doing Photoshop, I mean, in terms of practicality, they're kind of not different, so I do use them interchangeably. I probably shouldn't, but I do. So if you ever hear me talking about saturation instead of chroma, or actually probably most people are more familiar with saturation. So if you hear me talking about chroma, that's what I mean. Yeah, I think probably everyone's more familiar with that from I don't know, editing apps on your phone for images, that sort of thing, probably. Well, if you have any other questions, feel free to put them in the chat. We're just hanging out. I'm having a good time. I get to paint on a weekend. It's great. Didn't get enough painting done this week. I was hoping to have actually finished a majority of the first layer here, and I definitely will do that this week before next week's stream. But I was hoping to already have it done by now. Didn't get enough painting time. And of course, when I'm not just incessantly talking, I get a lot more painting done. So I am going pretty slow today, but and no excuse either. This first pass, it's not good enough to be going this slow. I have no real excuse for this. Yeah, it's okay. I'm a content creator now. I'm a pro gamer now. So, by the way, you know, Patrick mentioned Twitch streamers, and we're over here on YouTube instead of Twitch. Really just kind of practicality. I already have a YouTube channel. There's nothing really on it now, but I have a YouTube channel and I intend to make YouTube videos. I'm in the process of making a couple, and it just feels like having everything on one single channel is probably going to be best. Although I will say, I mentioned this on the last stream, YouTube does not have an art category for their streamers. Very frustrating. We're currently on the entertainment category, and that's the biggest stretch that I've ever put on categorizing anything. Oh yeah, this is entertainment. I'm not sure. But yeah, there's no real good good categorization for this sort of thing. Art stream, sure. That would be it if they had an art category. If they had like a... It's not really educational. Is that really what we're doing? It is a little bit, but I think there is sort of an educational category. And it also just feels like a stretch. You know, we're just painting. We're just hanging out. Why do we have to put a label on this? We're just friends. Stop. It's okay. I'm not ready to label this. I mean, you know, you're just a viewer, but you're also getting information, so you're like, you know, viewers with benefits. I don't know. Call it what you want. We're getting off the rails, so I think we'll get back to painting here. So now that I've cleaned up that area a little bit, I can much better tell my distances and everything going on here. That's really the main issue that I wanted to address before moving on, was that with the context around it being relatively spatially inaccurate, it means that moving forward, really difficult to get that accuracy back because your surroundings are wrong. So how are you going to get this right? And as soon as we finish this little white section here up at the top, I'm going to need to go back and I want to hit everything with a softer brush, try to blend it out just a little bit better, get rid of some of those brush strokes, that grainy texture. And I need to do that before it starts to dry a little too much. And man, I'm putting so little paint on here that it dries pretty fast. It wants to tack up pretty fast. Not totally dry, but dry enough that it doesn't really want to move across the surface anymore. So I want to make sure I get to moving all of that and smoothing it all out before that happens.
I think you owe the chat an apology. They're upset. You knew what this was.
Chat, why are you upset?
I thought we had something special.
Chat, listen, we do have something special. It's just, you know, I just want to be able to paint. I just want to be able to paint with who I want to paint with. I thought you knew what this was going in, you know? It's just... We've had a lot of fun times together, and nothing's going to take that away. I think maybe if we just focus on that, it'll be better. Is your microphone still on? Are they hearing your groans and everything? Okay.
I'm just laughing because I don't think you've ever had to say anything like that to anyone in your life.
Nope, no, I have not. Producer Rachel and I have been together since I was 15. Okay, this is getting too personal at this point. Let's back up a little. It is about the artwork.
Chat says, we want you to want us. That was Patrick.
Patrick, chat. It's getting weird. All right. Okay. You know what? I'm gonna stop for just a second here, and I have. Where is it? Oh, there it is. So we're gonna get back to, it's this little brush right here. I'm sure you can't see it too well. Really soft. It's a synthetic, like squirrel hair, I think it is. I'm sorry, Patrick, I'm just fully ignoring you. I am trying to, I do want to mention this though before I continue. So I'm using this very, very soft squirrel hair. This is a Dynasty number 4. That's all it says. So these are really pretty cheap brushes, just very soft synthetics. And I've got a little bit of dust in there, and I'm going to take this opportunity, bring out some of that dust, just try to sweep that out. I'm also just going to smooth things over. This is what I was talking about earlier. I'm going to smooth out some of these brush strokes just while I'm at it, because now's a good time with some of that dust in there I wanted to get out. So I'm doing sort of the same thing that we were getting dust out, but move it all across the surface. So talked a little bit about this last time. The reason that I'm doing this is I really don't want to see any brush strokes in here, none at all. And of course you can, especially down in some of these lighter areas here, if you look a little bit too close, you can see those brush strokes. Really what you're seeing though is not the topography of the paint. It's not like the ridges of the paint. What you're seeing is that the brushwork, the paint is very, very thin. So the brushwork kind of opens up these little areas where you can just see through it just a little bit too much. And that's just because the individual hairs of the brush. So the topography isn't really a bunch of, ridges and bumps and things like that, any more so than the actual surface of the canvas, which does have a little bit of texture on it. These are the ampersand gesso boards, so there's a little bit of texture here, but I'm trying to avoid giving it actual brush marks, brush texture, because I'm trying to communicate my values and color changes and everything else. I'm trying to communicate those through the actual luminance properties of the paint itself, not the reflective properties of the topography of the paint. I hope that makes sense. So sometimes, especially in think of Rembrandt's work. Rembrandt will do these really thick impasto highlights. So he's got, his self-portraits, he's done a ton of them, and especially as he got older, he did these really super thick, if you look right on the highlight there, he'd do these really thick, big brush marks. And what was happening is those brush marks were slightly curved, slightly tilted, and so they would catch the light more than everything else in the painting. And so it would make it look brighter, it would give it a stronger highlight. It would also give it a little bit of a shadow underneath that highlight, which I do not like. That's part of what I'm trying to avoid here. But what he's doing is he is using the reflective properties of the topography of his paint, those reflective properties of that, map of paint. And I am really trying not to do that. I don't want any topography, and I'm not trying to use any reflection of the topography. I am just trying to use the paint itself and the colors that I've mixed and the values that I've mixed, and that's all I want. So anything else is going to be distracting, so I'm getting rid of it. That is a difference of, I guess artistic philosophy maybe, that I'm trying to present an extremely flat illusion, and anything that protrudes from that flat illusion is now causing you to look at the painting as an object, as a flattened object with something that is protruding because your eye sees the difference, instead of the fully flat object that your mind can kind of ignore that it's a flat object and sort of starts to explore the image as more than just flat. So the illusion of depth, I feel, tends to be hindered pretty significantly by that topography. I really don't like that. So, all right, I'll stop art lecturing. I'll stop big words art lecture. So you're gonna look at my hat for just a second. So I gotta get the reflection here. Just make sure there's nothing standing out. There we go. Okay. By the way, you guys like my hat? I'm feeling, pretty artsy. That's my artist hat. It's to let everybody know that I'm an artist. So when you see my stream and you're like, hey, is that a painting? Maybe it's not. He's not wearing an artist hat. maybe he's not an artist. Well, now you know. Now it is. You see a guy wearing this hat, you're like, he's probably an artist. You see a guy wearing this hat, this apron, he's almost certainly an artist. And he's holding a palette? Bruh. That's an artist if I've ever seen one. No one can be confused now. But as soon as I take the hat off, you're like, amateur. So there you go. If there are any artists in the chat, my biggest pointer, you gotta wear the hat. You gotta look the part. Not true.
Your mother says
Hello,
she
Mother.
loves your hat.
Mother, you don't know. You're my mother. I can't take anything you say. No, because it doesn't matter what I was wearing. You'd be like, oh, my sweet boy. For any of you who do not know my mother, she does not talk like that. So.
She'd like to know, where did you get the embroidery done on your apron?
Oh, you mean? Oh, wait a minute. Switch to my camera, would you? This is just a roast of what I'm wearing now. Is that what's going on? Let's see. So I'm going to cancel my face tracking. Okay, there we go. Yeah, that little guy right there. My mother did that for me. Thank you, Mother. All right, we're following me again. There we go. Okay. Yeah. I also wear this. I don't know. I'm ornamenting my apron. I wear this little. If I have to move my head closer to it, then it'll follow it. There you go. I wear this little moth pin. I love this little moth pin. I like this guy. Those are the two additions that I made to my apron. Little moth pin, and my mother embroidered my name on it, so that when I look in a mirror, I still know it's me.
Patrick says, your hat with the glasses, good combo.
Thank you, Patrick. You know, I got some different glasses, and if any of you saw the recent CBS Mornings interview that I did, shout out to me who did that. Rachel's laughing over here. Shout out to CBS, really, is what I should have said. If any of you guys saw that CBS Mornings interview, I was wearing new glasses for that one, and I wore those for like 2 months, and I thought that they were, more cool, hip, contemporary glasses, but they gave me a horrible headache for 2 full months, and I was like, maybe something else is going on, and I didn't want to believe it, that I had spent a bunch of money on glasses that were completely the wrong prescription, and then waited several weeks, actually no, it was a couple months for them to get here to the DR, and then they were just wrong. I was very upset. So I do have new glasses that I cannot wear. So I'm glad you guys like these ones. Actually, is it here? No, they're over in my desk. I do have glasses that I wear specifically for really close-up detail, and I love those glasses. Oh man, if I could wear those all the time, I would. The only problem, not only did I get them in a prescription that is not my normal one, but they're so heavy. They're very, very heavy. And like it makes my ears hurt and my nose hurt and everything, but man, I love them. They're so cool. So I only wear them when I'm painting, and not for the first layer. I don't want to look too close at my first layer. Neither do you. That's why you're way back here. So, first layer is a little ugly. It's okay. We'll get there. But thank you. I appreciate that. Really, I'm playing my part well. Yeah, that's about right. Also, yeah, if you guys haven't seen that CBS interview, go check it out. I'm a small part of it. It's not like they, ran an interview about me or anything. It was on ÀNI Dominicana, this academy, and we were talking about art and how we're giving back to the community, and it's really cool. It's a cool thing to be a part of. I really appreciate it.
On the subject of accessories, Deborah Kears said she was once mistaken for a homeless person in Italy because she was wearing a tie-dye sweats and pigeon poop after plein air painting.
Yeah?
So since then, she wears accessories because you're right, they matter.
That's what you get for being an artist, I guess. That's funny. You know, what if you weren't actually mistaken for a homeless person? What if they were like, oh, poor artist, and they like, you know, tried to give you a dollar, you know, a couple euros, whatever, and you just miscommunicated with them. You're like, oh no, I'm not really homeless, and they were like, we know, you're an artist. You know, speaking of our topic earlier of behavioral manipulation through your art, things like that, I have found that everybody pretty well carries this this idea of artists, and you know, there's things like the starving artist, stuff like that. It's completely unrealistic. That doesn't really happen anymore. I guess if you were very, very unskilled and refused to learn from, you know, your situation and your successes or lack thereof, then yeah, maybe you would be a starving artist. But you know, art, find contemporary art of contemporary artists is like I want to say $68 billion a year industry. And so the thought that, oh, you just can't make money doing it, that's insane. That's crazy. You can absolutely make money with your work. Absolutely, as an artist. The other half of that actually is that, you know, very, very romantic, and I like this, I let it go, but it's that very romantic, like, oh, this person's they're just special. Like, I could never do that. It's just this innate ability that you have that I could not possibly have, even if I tried. And sometimes I'm like, well, no, you should try, you know, because absolutely anybody could do it. And other times I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I'm just very special. It's not true. But sometimes you gotta let people believe it.
I have heard in the past that the term starving artist was actually just misinterpreted, and that
Really?
the original intention was to mean that you were so distracted by your art that you forgot to eat. That artists tend to get obsessive and spend all their time on their work and forget to eat, and they're starving.
That's funny. I've never heard that. That makes sense to me though, except that look at me. I'm not starving. I do sometimes. I have when I was in Pennsylvania studying with Anthony. There was a time that Rachel was still in Ohio, and with my adorable little puppy named Olive, who I love so much. Anyway, there was a time where Rachel and Olive were still in Ohio, and I was in Pennsylvania studying with Anthony. And yeah, there certainly were those times, you know, 16-hour painting days, and I would forget to eat, and I would forget to, you know, have I take care of myself in whatever way. And so I guess I could see that, but as you can tell, I don't forget to eat. I would never. You know, something else that we found while we were in Pennsylvania, there's a place called Harbor Crab that does seafood boils. We just call it Crab House because for whatever reason I couldn't remember the name at first. So we just call it Crab House now. But we went to Crab House to celebrate all of the victories that I had, any competition wins. I finished a painting, we went to Crab House. I sold a painting, we went to Crab House. I entered a huge competition and I won something, Crab House. There were big competitions like the Art Renewal Center's yearly salon. There were semi-finalists, Crab House. That same artwork was then finalist like a month later, whatever, Crab House. And then, you know, it just over time when we realized, hey, we probably shouldn't have seafood boils like twice a week, then we stopped doing it.
Friends in Pennsylvania, it's called Harbor Crab. It's in Dixon City by the mall. You should go.
It's so good. It's wonderful. I love seafood boils, and the close proximity to a seafood boil meant that I was gonna have it. I was getting it. I was getting it a lot. You know what, Kirk? feels weird to call you that. Anyway, Kirk, because that was your name on YouTube, asked what drove me to like continuing my successes. It was just the promise of seafood boils if I did something good, honestly. Yeah, I think probably that's the more accurate answer there. I did good. I can have seafood now. Yeah, that was wild. That's when we started hadn't done it too much, but we had started entering a lot of online art competitions, which I don't know, kind of get a bad rap from artists. I don't know. I've heard other artists say like, "Oh, this thing is a scam" or anything like that. Certainly, there are ones that are, and unfortunately, there are too many places and people trying to take advantage of artists who don't know any better. But I will also say that we have had great success with a lot of those competitions. Last year, producer Rachel, correct me if I'm wrong, I think we were awarded in 60 different competitions. There's quite a few.
Just read the prospectus. Read the tiny text at the bottom of the prospectus. That's all you gotta do.
Is that? That's all you gotta say? All right.
Well, if an artist would like to participate in an art competition and is just starting out, it is kind of hard to tell the difference between which ones are legitimate and which aren't.
That's true. So I've gotten people on my Instagram. I don't know how. Maybe they've just seen me on like the winners list or something. But I've gotten several people on Instagram like, "Hey, I saw your work. What do you think of this competition?" People I don't know, which is cool. I like that, and I certainly enjoy being able to inform people on things like that. Last year we entered so many of them. We did get a lot of awards from them, but we were entering things that we were unsure if it looked legitimate. Sometimes it looks a little weird because someone is putting them on by themselves. There was one example that I can think of that it was just one guy running the whole thing. He was just very passionate about art, and he designed the website himself and all the logos and everything. He designed all of that himself, and he's no professional designer, and you can tell that. But completely legitimate. He's just very passionate about art. Just wanted to do it himself. So we took a step out on a limb and tried it out, and yep, turns out it was legitimate. And sometimes that's what you can do. Sometimes you gotta just see. And a lot of times those application fees are like $20, $30, something like that, which I know can be a lot, especially if you are doing a lot of these competitions and you don't want to gamble with money like that sort of thing. But what Rachel and I did is we started slow with free ones, and we eventually continued to do more, and we won money, and then we'd roll that winnings over into the next competition. That meant that we were never really gambling with our money. It's just, well, we won money, and so we can use that to win more money. And obviously the work has to be there, and you've got to do the best work that you can, and then trust that other people recognize that work. But usually they do. That's my experience.
I think a good way to find success for your specific work too is to look at previous winners to see if they're in your genre of art, if that's the correct way to say it. If you're a realist, you don't want to enter something that it's all abstract or installation art. Check out who the judges are. If the judges have something of an appreciation for the type of work that you do, you've got a better shot. A lot of different galleries have different, mission statements on their website and things, and you can kind of curate your applications to their interests. it's a, I know a lot of people are skeptical, but if you do it right, it's a great way to be involved in a wider art community and get your work out there to a lot of different people, to a wider audience.
Yeah, absolutely does wonders for your resume. If you're looking to bolster that, you can easily do it by entering some shows. Of course, you know, some of those more well-recognized shows are going to do better on your resume than others, but yeah, we unfortunately we do look at the judges for all of them, and unfortunately we have found some competitions where, man, somebody has no business judging other people's artwork, and you do have to look out for that sort of thing every now and then. But like I said, I am always my harshest critic anyway, so there's nothing that anyone can say about my artwork that I probably haven't already thought about my artwork, so that's okay. You know, it's funny, every now and then, we have gotten feedback several times that the type of artwork that I do and the work that we do at the ÀNI Academy, it's very, very realistic, and things like taking advantage of the way that your biology works in order to view artwork, stuff like that, it's rare for a lot of artists. Less so today, more than ever, but it's still rare in a lot of circles, and to a lot of communities just haven't been exposed to it. So every now and then, we have been given the feedback that I don't think your artwork is legitimate, and it looks like you've put, you know, a clear, like gel medium sort of thing on a photograph. That's what I think you did, and so you're not going to get into this competition. And the last time it happened, luckily, we knew the curator of the competition, not the judge. The judge was the person making this comment, but we knew the curator of the competition, and the curator stood up for me and said, no, I absolutely know that this is what this guy is producing, and you know, I can share with you his like Facebook images, Instagram, whatever it was, so you can see the process. And well, now you can share the live streams so you can see the process, but we were just lucky in that instance that somebody knew who I was and was able to say, no, this absolutely is legitimate artwork. So that doesn't happen often, but every now and then, yeah, somebody isn't quite as experienced or hasn't had the exposure to some contemporary art forms, and so maybe they don't know any better. So you never know. How long have we been going? We've been going for 2 hours and 15 minutes, and this is all I've gotten done. Producer Rachel needs a break. 2 hours though. We've been going for a little while. Tell you what, yeah, you go ahead and go. We're gonna continue the stream for now. I think we're gonna stop relatively soon though. We've been going for a little while. I can see. Thank you. Everybody wave to producer Rachel as she goes. Oh, there she goes. Just barely caught her. Well, because producer Rachel is not here, I cannot see your chats. But, well, I can see that you're doing it, but I can't read it. It's a little too far away. So, oh. Hold on, we're locked in. She doesn't have the keys. Okay. Anyways, there she is. Okay, she's gone. Okay, guys. She can't hear us anymore. Everybody spam things to producer Rachel in the chat so that when she comes back, I don't know, if you think of a prank, I don't know. She's gone. I can see you guys in the chat. Yeah, I can't read it, a little bit too far away. So if you have anything for me, put it in there. As soon as she comes back, she'll be able to read it off for us. So In the meantime, though, you know, this painting's looking pretty good. I've never done this, like, really out of focus, these bokeh, you know, shallow depth of field tricks before. I haven't really done that before, but I'm pretty happy with it. Pretty excited about it. This, you know, really subtle ones, like this one over here, these couple little ones, those are really reading pretty well. I think these up here are very cool and they're reading pretty well, but it's just so incomplete and you don't really have the context for it, you know? So it's a little bit difficult to see it and really get a sense of it, but it's not bad. They're a little too crisp, I will say that. The contrast is definitely low. Saturation in some spots is definitely low, but my like borders and edges and everything are a little bit too crisp, and you know, I'm trying to avoid that, but struggling a little bit. One of the issues here is that the brush that I'm using is quite big for the amount of resolution that I'm going for, the amount of detail that I'm going for. I'm doing that on purpose, though. It's specifically because it's going to keep me moving, and I have found that if I start with too small of a brush, I will continue, you know, getting smaller and smaller and smaller in detail and resolution until I am just stuck on one area for the next week and I can't move on, and my brushes just get smaller and smaller. So I have limited myself in this instance to a Princeton Imperial Round 0, which you can really see it there. It is quite small. There it is. It's quite small. The ones that I use on like really, really fine details on second layer, though, let's see. So this one is a 000. It's actually splayed pretty bad, so not a great example, but I will eventually go down to a 000. It's the smallest brush that I ever really use. They're very, very, very small, though. So I am currently using this one. It's an old brush. It's a little bit ratty. It's kind of ripped up, and so its edges aren't very solid. They're kind of feathered naturally, just because this brush is a little old and ripped up. And for this instance, that's perfectly fine. I'm totally okay with that. I don't need really clean, polished, sharp edges. And in fact, it would be worse if I had really sharp edges, because like I said later, those paints get a little bit more transparent, and because of that, if you have a sharp edge where it doesn't belong, you're gonna see it. So I would rather have everything a little bit more diffuse, everything a little bit softer, and then if I want to sharpen it up later, I can do that, and that's okay. So that's the plan right now. Producer Rachel's back. She's going to discover what we've done. Anything good?
Well, Deborah Kearse just said something nice that...
What'd she say?
She said, Maxwell, you couldn't do what you do without Rachel. That's very nice.
The ultimate prank. Make her feel good about herself. You're right, though. You are certainly correct. We are quite a pair. We're a good team.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, I'm, you know, very fortunate. Like I was saying earlier to Patrick, I'm very fortunate. I've got somebody doing all the hard work for me so that I can sit back and do all the fun stuff like painting. Well, man, we've been going for a while. I had no idea. Our first stream, I think we cut at like an hour and a half, something like that. 2.5 hours? Is that what we've been doing? 2.5? 2:26? Long time. Not bad. I don't know. I think we need to experiment a little bit with our different timings, and then actually, because we're so early on, a lot of what we're doing is experimentation, and we'll be able to see that on like the viewership graphs and things like that. We get a lot of great analytics after these, so we'll do some experimenting and then see. Our last one, our watch times were very good, and everybody watched more and more and more until it got to the end, which, I don't know, tells me that maybe we should have gone longer. So this one, 2.5 hours, we went quite a bit longer, and we'll see if that holds up. We'll see if see how our viewership numbers are. It's possible that we got a little too weird. So we might have lost some people. It's okay. It's possible that we went a little too long, and we'll know that for next time. So we don't have a schedule right now. We're kind of just going on the weekends because that's when we have the most time. In the future, last time we did Saturday, this time Sunday. So in the future, maybe we'll be able to say whether one is better than the other, and we can make a decision on staying with one day instead of a different one. And at that point, we'll announce our streaming schedule. Right now, though, I think we're just going to keep to the weekends, maybe one stream per weekend. That gives us time to work on other things, YouTube videos, stuff like that. So I think that's probably best, but yeah, we'll see. So for now, I think we're gonna call it quits unless anybody has anything else in the chat, any other questions, anything like that. Now's your chance. Type quick.
I just got some feedback.
Okay.
Debbie said she probably can't usually watch for as long as she did today in the future, just because today she has been making a kilt at the same time while watching.
Making a kilt? Mm-hmm. That's awesome.
I've also gotten some feedback that...
I think I've seen your kilts on either Facebook or Instagram. I think so. I don't remember. If I have, they're awesome, and I love it. If I haven't, I'm thinking of somebody else. Sorry.
There's also been some feedback that I sound like I'm in a karaoke machine. So we'll probably want to figure out what that's about.
Is that good or bad? What does that mean?
I don't know. Cue up some Britney Spears. We'll find out.
Okay. We'll look into it. Rachel's on the God mic right now.
Yeah, I would love to find out how I can change that. I don't really want to sound like I'm in the karaoke machine, but better than last week.
I don't know what that means. I haven't done enough karaoke to know what that means.
You know that like echoey sound? Like those kid microphones that like aren't actually electric, but you yell into them and it has like an echo?
Oh, I see. Yeah.
In my headphones, yeah, I do sound like a karaoke machine for sure.
I wonder why. That's so interesting.
It's a vibe. I'm not against it.
We'll look into it. Yeah, I'm sure that's like just one of our monitoring settings or something like that. But yeah, we'll look into it. So yeah, always improving the stream. Let us know. Make some comments whether you're watching live or you're watching one of the videos. Let us know if there's something you'd like to see. A particular day that I don't know. Maybe you guys know more than I do about streaming. It's certainly possible. As much research as I have done, again, we ended up on a platform that doesn't even have an art category. So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe we'll try some multi-platform streaming eventually. I'm not sure. So we'll see. But in the meantime, I think next week we're gonna be streaming again next week. Probably on Saturday. Maybe we'll shoot for a little bit less time. We'll see the analytics on that. Maybe 2 hours, but. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Thank you so much for watching and for hanging out, for putting your questions in the chat, for putting all of your weirdness in the chat. I appreciate that. That's really nice. It's really good to have somebody to chat with and talk to while I paint here on the weekends. It's so quiet here in the studio, so nice to have somebody to talk to while we paint. And we'll be back next week. Thank you so much. Anything, Rachel? Any last producer wise words? She says no.
Be excellent to each other.
Wow. And with that, we're getting the hell out of here. Okay. Have a good one, guys. There you go. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.